pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roll, Lieutenant. Flight downside, speed off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.
All right, folks, you know the drill. Let me know if you can hear me, and let me know if you can see Starship out there live from Boca Chica, Texas. I'm John Galloway with NASA Spaceflight here. Have a couple of NASA Spaceflight crew with us today, so we can tell you what's coming up this week for Starship SN10. So welcome to the live stream. Give me a 5x5. You're part of our remote production crew. We don't have like a cast of thousands that does these streams. It's literally us and y'all. So looks like you can hear us. Looks like the video is nominal right now. So we got a little bit of haze out there live from Boca Chica looking at Starship SN10. With me on the line today, we have Thomas Berghart. Thomas, how you doing?
I'm doing good, and here to give a bit of an update and just answer some questions about Starship SN10, which might fly as early as tomorrow, we hope. So, yeah, how's it going, everybody?
As early as tomorrow, huh?
Yeah, you gotta be careful, because, you know, Starship tends to just kind of fly whenever it wants to, so theoretically it could fly tomorrow. We'll see. We hope so.
All right, so y'all, that is Thomas Berghart here, and then also I believe we've got Michael Baylor. I believe. Of course we have Michael Baylor.
Yes.
Michael, how you doing?
Yes, we do. I'm doing well. We're still waiting to see the final steps that would indicate a launch tomorrow. We can talk about that more as we get the stream going, but as of now, the one-hop answer is tomorrow.
All right. So, y'all, also Jack Beyer is out there. We'll check in with him in just a minute. He's getting set up with another camera angle live from Boca Chica. And then Mary is out as well, but Mary is focusing on getting some more videos for the daily, so we do not expect to have Mary's camera on here. Jack will be covering for her. Mary recording daily videos that you'll see uploaded here later, but that is our crew for today's shindig. Yeah, I don't see anybody else connected to Discord, so I'm going to say that that's who it is. Anyways, so we are here, and we are going to do about an hour-long live Q&A. You can see it's about 1:07 Central Standard Time out there at Boca Chica. All these views are live. We're not playing any recorded video or anything like that. We're bringing you live video from multiple angles over here, and we'll get more in just a second. And over the course of the broadcast, we'll be answering some questions, reading some super chats, all the things that we normally do. So if you've got a question for us, tag us in chat at NASASpaceflight. It goes into the handy-dandy software that Michael has written, and we'll bring up questions in real time. But who wants to give us the rundown on where we are here? Like, what are we looking at? How much time do we have? What are we going to be looking at tomorrow? Thomas or Michael? Who's got that for us?
I can try.
Oh, yeah, Michael go first, and I'll add on after Michael.
Okay,
How's that?
So,
All right.
there is one positive change since last night. If you look very carefully, you can see two white dots about halfway up Starship SN10. Those two white dots are the flight termination system charges which have been installed overnight. So they have taken one step towards flight. That is one of the key indications we need to see happen. And now we wait for three more things really. The next things we're waiting to see happen are the village evacuation. So the villagers such as Mary will have to be told that they need to evacuate tomorrow. Then there should be a marine hazard zone that gets published as well. I have not seen that yet. I could have missed it. I am double checking, and you can let me know.
I do not believe that's been published yet.
Yeah, let me know in chat if I missed that, but I do not believe that has been published. And then the third thing, which is not definitively going to happen, but hopefully it will, is that SpaceX will post a update on their website that says that they're going to attempt to launch as early as Monday. So those are the three things we're looking to see happen from here on out, hopefully sometime this afternoon. It's also possible, of course, they will decide to push the test flight later into the week, so Monday's the earliest possible launch date, but until we see those three things happen, it's not for certain yet. So we will keep you all up to date as soon as we hear anything. If those updates don't happen over the next hour, follow us on Twitter, of course, and as soon as there is news, we will let you know.
Yeah, and so to add on to that, those are the things we're still looking for. Of course, there are some things already in place that indicate that there could be testing occurring tomorrow. The road closures for Boca Chica are currently scheduled for Monday and Tuesday this week, from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. local time in Boca Chica. Those are a prerequisite to doing any testing. Also, there are temporary flight restrictions filed for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, all up to that unlimited altitude and covering the area of Boca Chica. So those are for SN10's flight test. So those are all in place. So currently, both closures only in place for Monday and Tuesday. Like Michael said, we haven't seen those marine hazard notices, but we'll keep an eye out for those. But those kind of indicate that's kind of where we get our no earlier than target based on where those closures and restrictions have been put in place. And we'll keep an eye on those in case the schedule updates. But for now, looking for probably a primary opportunity on Monday and perhaps a backup opportunity on Tuesday. Pending a whole bunch of things. Obviously, Starship SN10 has to be technically ready. SpaceX teams will be reviewing data from 2 static fires now last week, after the first static fire doing a engine swap and then conducting the second one, which appeared very nominal. So they should be looking at the data and making sure everything's good there. Any final preparations at the launch or landing site as well. And then, of course, they're going to be looking at weather the day of, make sure that's within spec. One thing that will be interesting is to see what kind of apogee they end up targeting for this flight. They've kind of been adjusting that here and there based on weather and some other things. So we'll be interested to see that, but it should still be within that sort of 10 to 15 kilometer range, just like the previous flights, and should be basically a repeat of the SN8 and SN9 flights. Of course, we're all hoping that maybe this time they will stick the landing, but that's kind of where we stand now as far as SN10 flight test this week.
All right. So again, folks, like we do every single time, we will be standing by to try and see what the deal is. Every day we'll be watching the notices, we'll be watching the road closures, we'll be talking with Mary because she lives there in the village and she will potentially get an evacuation notice if something's going to go on. That's a really clear indication for us is the evacuation of the village. And luckily we have somebody on the staff there that lives in the village. Mary has to get this evacuation notice before they're going to fly. So that's like, TFRs, road closures, all these other things happen. But if Mary leaves the village, that is a really clear sign something's going on. So every single day this week, we will be ready to go every day. We have all of our cameras and stuff deployed, ready to cover whatever Starship is going to do. And on a daily basis, we'll come back here on the channel. We'll be tweeting things out. You'll see a live stream scheduled if we get some clear indication that something's happening. But making sure you follow NASASpaceflight on Twitter and making sure you sub to the channel here and turn on the notifications, etc., so that you do not miss whatever we post up. So we wanted to go through and do some questions, if I wasn't mistaken. Let me read a couple super chats real quick. And Thomas Anfang, thank you so much for the $5 and for the NASA spaceflight Boca Chica hype house. Nice. So the team won't need Airbnbs, and so everyday astronaut isn't so lonely. Yes. As we spend more and more time out there, we will definitely need to find additional housing for robots. Because we're so we appreciate you, Thomas. Also, Rman24 saying there was an earthquake here like 5 minutes before I posted this. Well, I hope you're safe, Rman. Big of an earthquake, I guess. Is that the Iceland? The Icelandic?
Hold up, I'm checking.
Yeah, I think so. Anyways, hope you're safe.
Yeah, Icelandic. So hopefully all good over in Iceland. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, but it almost looks like there's a little bit of an earthquake. It is super windy out there at Boca Chica today. It is windy like crazy. So normally these robots are very much they're pretty solid, right? They're pretty solid, and for the robot to be shaking a little bit, it has to be super windy out there. So let's see here. There's one more from Rough Riders. Hey, Rough Riders says, hope it flies by Tuesday or Chris Beebe deletes all his social accounts. Did Chris say he was doing that? He's going to delete his social account?
Yeah, he like doubled down and said, no, that's going to fly by Tuesday. I guarantee it. I don't know. I don't remember if he like said he would delete his Twitter or something if it didn't. But I don't know. It's getting a little close, I think.
All right. Well, Thomas, if you could you grab some questions here for us? You have the panel up. And
hey,
I'm going to work on that other camera. Yeah, there we go. Hey, Jack, how you doing?
Not bad. Hopefully I'm not coming through as a robot.
Not a robot right now, no.
Cool. What's
Cool.
up, everybody? I'm next to Starship. You should have my camera feed at your convenience there, Das. Pull some steampunk levers.
That's why I was just asking Thomas to get some questions so I could come over and check that camera. So Thomas, take a couple away and I will work on this.
Sure. Again, if you have a question, tag us with @NASASpaceflight in chat, and I'm going to pull some out of the queue right now. We've got one here from Nitrex asking, are we expecting any FAA shenanigans this time? We can actually report that the FAA has given the green light for SN10's test flight. They've cleared all of the items from SN8 and SN9, and so there was a report, I think over a week ago actually, that SN10 is ready to go from the FAA's point of view. So we are not expecting any problems there. As of right now, the main items to watch will probably just be weather, as long as data from the static fires last week also show no technical problems to work through. Weather will probably be the big item to watch for SN10's test flight today. Or not today, sorry, I misspoke. No earlier than tomorrow. There's no launch today. That was a misspeak, my apologies. Let's see, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say Jack's camera is so much clearer, but it's way closer. Obviously, I didn't even realize it was live for a second, but it is. You can see some. You can see some vapor coming off of that truck, but wow.
Where? I was just about to check to see if it was actually live.
There is.
If you look at the nose cone, you can kind of see the clouds, like the low-hanging clouds, moving a little bit. So it's like live. Oh, and there's something moving behind Starship. Okay, it is live. I promise.
Okay, it is live. Yeah.
Do you want me to wiggle the camera? Like, how can I prove it? To you?
Shoe on head or not live. Like, is this camera actually live? Wiggle it. Like, just bump it, Jack. I'm having trouble believing that this is a live feed.
It is. Hey, I'll zoom in for you. Give me a second.
Oh, okay. All right. Do the zoom in.
Oh, he's going to show off more. I see. Okay.
Yeah, we got the FTS there. It would be a good zoom in target, potentially.
That's true.
I'm not going to zoom in.
Oh, yeah. Cut away so I can do a little magic here.
Oh, okay. Well, then how are we going to know it's live?
Yeah, boo.
Boo.
All right. Okay, wait. Cut back.
Okay, wait. There you go. All right, we're back.
We'll do the thing. Okay, fine.
All right.
There you go.
Oh, I saw it move. Okay, there. It looks like we're on a boat now. Are you jumping up and down on the Land Rover? What are you doing? Oh, wow. Okay.
There's the FTS.
Yeah, you can see the FTS up there at the top. Those two white boxes about halfway up Starship near the top of the screen right now, those little white, they almost look like C4 charges strapped to the side of Starship. I mean, they are actually.
That is basically what they are, so yeah.
There we go. So proving that it is a live camera that moves on occasion. Thomas, grab some more questions.
Yeah, sure. We've got a super chat here from Grayson. Thank you so much. I know there are TFRs, but will Starship ever attempt to fly early or late in the day? What is the optimal time period for launch? So for these test flights, obviously there's no sort of launch window as far as like physics is concerned. The physics of the flight don't change based on when you launch, so they're working within that sort of 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Road closure window. The TFR, I believe, opens at 8 a.m. and closes at 6:30, which gives them a little bit more time to safe the vehicle after landing or stuff like that. But for the most part, they're just working within that road closure window, which is more of a logistical thing. Doesn't really have any effect on the flight test itself. I don't know if we'll see any flights earlier or later than that. The only time where you kind of see launches, late at night or early in the morning is when you're going for like an orbital launch of some kind and you need to target a specific orbit or something, which physics could require you launch at a different time. But until we start seeing stuff like that, these Starship test flights will kind of just happen in the middle of the day, just because that's when it's most convenient to coordinate road closures, airspace restrictions, and just SpaceX personnel getting to work and stuff like that. So they're going to work in that for the near future. Got a question here from Jeb saying, if SN10 lands, what will SpaceX do with it? Great question. I think there's two different options they could go with. If it is the first one to land successfully, what they'll want to do is inspect it one way or the other and get as much data from it as possible. There are two ways to do this. You can non-destructively inspect it, look at it with X-ray detection things, look at it just with cameras and things like that, visual inspections, and look at that to make sure get as much data as you can. In that event, it is possible that SN10 could actually fly again if they wanted to start getting data on flying a Starship multiple times, even though it's not really going through like re-entry heating or anything like that, so I'm not sure how valuable that data would be at this point. What I think is more likely is that they do a destructive inspection post-flight, which means they basically rip it apart, look at all the interior guts of Starship, and get all the data from that they can. They could probably get more data that way than from just visual inspections without destroying anything, because they're going to have SN11 ready to go anyway. And so even if they do land it successfully, they will likely want to repeat the flight profile with another Starship SN11 while they rip apart SN10 for extra data and things like that. We touched on this a little bit on NSF Live yesterday, and I think that's kind of what we're expecting. Of course, it is a big if SN10 lands in the first place. This still would be sort of a surprise, as Starship is still pretty early and it is a brand new landing maneuver, and only 3 tries to get it right would still be pretty impressive, although we're all hoping that that is the case. So yeah, post-flight inspections and probably not fly again, but maybe. Yeah.
I think, I mean, even if 10 lands perfectly, I think I'll still be astonished that they pulled it off, even if it took 3 tries. I mean, at this point, I'm sort of wondering how many tries, will it take them? But yeah.
For reference, it took 3 attempts to land a Falcon 9 booster for them to be successful, so there's precedent there. Granted, Falcon 9 did a bunch of like soft splashdown tests and stuff like that, which Starship didn't, so it's kind of an unfair comparison. But anyways,
I really hope that they don't, if it does land, I hope they don't do what you're saying and destructively test it by pulling it apart and looking at all the pieces. That makes perfect sense to me that they would. It kind of seems like what they did with 5 and 6, right? Some of the previous ones, but
right.
It's a piece of history. Whatever the first Starship to land, it's going to be like the first Wright brothers plane in a lot of ways, or I don't know. Perhaps it's a little bit hyperbolic, but I do feel like these are historical test articles to a certain extent, and I don't know. I think about like you can't go and see a lot of planes because they just don't exist. Copies of them don't exist elsewhere. There might be like 1 or 2 in a museum somewhere, but either like that's all that was built, or that's all that remains, and you kind of have to go like on a pilgrimage to see, certain aircraft. And if there's no Starship test articles after this test campaign that are preserved, I'll be a little bit sad that people can't go and experience what will a Starship look like when it's fully formed, when it's not a prototype anymore, and then how hilarious will these look in comparison? It belongs in a museum. Anyways, sorry, I digress, Thomas. I just want some of this stuff to survive past the test campaign. I'll stop my rant.
No, sure. I mean, I think I'll offer a slight counterpoint here, because the Starship test flights that these vehicles are doing are closer to things like the Grasshopper and the F9R program for SpaceX. Obviously, they are going higher altitude than those tests did, but these aren't the first operational landings. SpaceX has the first ever Falcon 9 booster to land after an orbital flight on display at their headquarters in California. I think the first Starship to land from orbit is a much more historical thing that will likely get some sort of permanent display rather than all of these interim test articles, because I mean, if you kept every single Starship test article that was the first to do something, you're going to end up with 10 different vehicles that you want to display. You got to pick and choose, I think. They've got Starhopper out there. I think that's going to stay out there. But they took apart SN5 and SN6,
I guess that does sort of betray my hoarder tendencies a little bit. I'm like, no, keep them all. It's like, are you really going to do anything with this one? No, but it looks cool. How can we get rid of it?
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I think the first Starship to come back from orbit and land, that's the real historical thing that I would definitely want to stay or keep kind of around. Maybe the first Super Heavy booster to land as well would be very, very cool to keep in museum status, if you will. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
That makes a lot of sense that they would keep the first orbital one. I think you're onto something there. Good call.
I'm going to keep going with some questions here. Another one about SN10. Should SN10 stick the landing safely in the next test, what might future test flight profiles look like? So, based on what they did with SN5 and SN6, I think there's a fair chance they would want to repeat it at least once, do the same flight profile, and stick the landing again. That would be something to look forward to. Beyond that, the next things they're going to want to look at is reaching higher speed profiles, going supersonic, which is something Starship has not done yet. That might be a milestone. And again, we're kind of spitballing here. We don't know exactly how big a difference. Not only
going supersonic, but going supersonic on the way up and the way down. 2 different milestones.
Right. That's true. So that would be something to look forward to. That would likely involve going to a much higher altitude. At some point, Starship's going to obviously have to go to space. that could be on some sort of suborbital trajectory, and could be part of that going supersonic test regime. And I mean, you'd get a little bit of reentry heating data from a suborbital hop, but not nearly as much as an orbital reentry. Might still be useful. And then obviously at some point they're going to go for an orbital test, but that's probably a few tests away. Also, we're going to have to look at super heavy testing, because that's obviously an integral part of this, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with BN1, do some sort of low altitude hops, kind of like they did with earlier Starships, eventually test those maybe to higher altitudes, whether as part of a full stack or on their own. But yeah, I think the next milestone to do after this, if they want to repeat it, and then go to higher altitudes and faster speeds, because that's how you're going to incrementally get towards the sort of energy that you need to get to orbit, and that'll give them the data they need to make an orbital attempt. So that's what we're looking for next. But first things first, SN10, stick the landing. Got a super chat here. Oh, here's a question from Attila asking, is the tri-vent due to the fact that Starship has 3 engines, asking for a friend with 27, so referring to Super Heavy. Do we know if the tri-vent is directly connected to the fact that Starship has 3 engines, or is that a coincidence? That's a question for anyone who knows the answer.
I don't think it's ever been like confirmed by an Elon tweet, but we saw one of them with SN5 and one of them with SN6, which both had 1 engine. And when we switched to 3-engine vehicles, they had 3 of those same vents, and we refer to them as engine chill vents. So I don't think it's ever been like 100% confirmed by Elon on Twitter or anything, but I think it's a reasonable assumption that the 3 vents are related to there being 3 engines. And that is not to say that a booster with 27 engines will have 27 vents, or even that all Starships going forward will have 3 vents like these current prototypes do. They could consolidate them all into 1 vent with new plumbing or something. It's important to remember that these are prototypes, and sort of they're building them as fast as they can to get the data as fast as they can so they can keep building them better, et cetera, et cetera. So hard to say what future ones will look like, or like if a Starship has all 3 sea-level engines and all 3 vacuum engines, will it have 6 vents? Will they combine 2 into 2 and so they only have 3 still? Who knows? But yeah, I don't know. Michael, did you want to add anything to that?
I was going to say for SN8, they did static fires with varying amounts of engines. So they did have, a single engine test with SN8. They also had a dual engine test with SN8. Then they had a triple engine test with SN8. And in all those cases, the number of vents corresponded with the number of engines being fired. So I think it is fair to say that there is 1 vent per engine. At least for now, like Jack said.
Yeah, at least for now. So it could be interesting if there were 27 vents around the outside of a Starship, or on the outside of a Super Heavy, but not necessarily the case. But for now, yes, it sounds like tri-vent correlates to 3 engines. Good question.
How could you even do 27? The ring of the booster would just be like Swiss cheese, right? Like they would have to be consolidated on some extent, I think. But sure. I am not a rocket scientist. I'm merely a roadside rocket scientist.
Got a super chat here asking, do we know what modifications have been made for Starship SN15? Do we have any confirmed upgrades that we know are present starting with SN15?
No, I mean, we know that Elon said there are going to be major upgrades with SN15, but I'm not sure we know what most of those upgrades are going to be. Presumably there might be more of the heat shield section, but I don't really know exactly what this is going to entail.
Yeah, I think the items we're looking at are the heat shield, potentially landing legs, because we know that's something they want to redesign at some point. But those are 2 things I would just look at, but those are kind of guesses. We don't really have anything confirmed yet. Of course, once SN15 starts getting towards completion, I'm sure Mary is going to spot some new things, and that might give us a clue as to what exactly to expect.
Yeah, searching for Elon's tweets on Twitter or like on Google or whatever is sometimes a fool's errand, just because it's kind of hard to do. At least for me, I'm not great at the Google foo, but I swear at one point he tweeted something along the lines of slight aero changes or tweaks to SN15. So there might be some slight changes in the flap size or shape, or I don't know. I'm very curious. Like I'm sure a lot of our viewers are, what exactly the changes on SN15 will entail, and no, I don't think we've really gotten anything concrete on that yet. But yeah, like you said, Thomas, definitely look for the heat shield maybe getting, you know, bigger or more complete, and I don't know if any leg changes are slated yet. Legs are hard. I mean, space is hard is the idiom, but really legs are hard.
Got a super chat here asking if SN10 sticks the landing, would it be possible to use it again to test reliability? It would be possible. It depends on what kind of inspection SpaceX wants to do afterwards. They may want to destructively inspect it and therefore let the next flight be handled by SN11. But that remains to be seen exactly what SpaceX has in store for the first Starship, which lands successfully. A super chat here. Any idea how they transport the extreme huge ring? So we're talking about the orbital launch table for the orbital launch stand to the launch pad. They could use one of the big transporters that they have around, sort of the self-propelled modular transporters. That would probably suffice in some way if they could get one of those set up. But yeah, they'll have to roll that out to the orbital launch site at some point. I believe it's currently at the production site. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, please.
Nobody
Yeah,
Alright,
it's at the build site.
Okay, just checking. That's what I thought. So yeah, obviously we'll have to stay tuned for that. There'll probably be a big road closure for transporting something that big, but we'll stay tuned and see exactly when and how they will do that. Here is a good one from Florian asking, how well do you think we will see Starship when it finally orbits? Do you think it will be comparable to the ISS? Can't wait to see it in person here in Germany. So the ISS is pretty visible with the naked eye, given the right condition, the sky conditions and things like that. The shuttle was also fairly visible as long as you knew where to look for it. I would imagine the Starship would be in that sort of realm because it's nice and big and of course stainless steel, so reflective, as long as the heat shield isn't facing you, I suppose. I would guess that you could probably see a Starship free flying with the naked eye once it is in orbit. Any differing opinions or other anecdotes to add to that answer?
I mean, I think for sure, like, if the lighting's right, you get the sort of ISS situation where you can see the ISS because it's dark where you are. Like, I don't see why you wouldn't be able to see it with reflected light, right?
Right.
Yeah,
it should
that
be
just
pretty
makes
similar.
sense. It'd be really wild to see, or you know, when people do the things like they get the ISS transiting the moon or the ISS transiting the sun, or I mean, it would be so cool to get that kind of shot with Starship, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I can't wait. It's going to be a really beautiful photograph that we'll get hopefully in the next couple of years from some intrepid photographers.
Got a super chat here from Linda. Thank you so much. Saying, do you think they may have actually used sticky paint on the logo on the landing pad to help stick the landing? I'm gonna guess that the landing pad isn't sticky to help stick the landing, but SpaceX has done crazier things, I suppose.
Yeah.
Thank you for the super chat.
But yeah, they are trying to catch a booster with a tower, which is insane.
Yeah. Kazmaster says 15 is going to be more pointy. He said it on the latest Rogan podcast. Said make it more pointy. So that might be part of the arrow tweaks that they're going to make. Maybe a slightly different nose cone shape. That is one option. We'll have to look for that. Thank you for your super chat. Got one here from an account with no name. Just says occupy the moon first and Mars will follow. Yeah, Starship's going to go to both of those places hopefully. So thank you for the super chat. And then Dean, why do you think they had some heat shield tiles on the back of the flap of SN10? Yeah, so that's been a kind of a item of frequent questions. They have got heat shield tiles on a part of Starship that would never actually see re-entry heating, unless there was some weird. I guess. Well, all right. I guess I shouldn't say that. It is possible that plasma could get back there based on exactly what the aerodynamic flow over Starship is during re-entry. But it is sort of in a weird place. They might be testing it just to test how they're actually adhering them to the Starship vehicle. And so it doesn't actually matter where they attach them. Or it could be a weird place that they actually do want to put heat shield tiles and thus they want to test them there. Obviously, this Starship will not experience any re-entry heating, so it's not really correlated to that. They're mostly just testing how they attach the tiles to the Starship and things like that. More super chats coming in. Moldy Space Industries, no question, just support for the Thomas Fan Club. Thanks, Moldy Space, appreciate it. And a super chat here from Chris as well. Thank you so much for your support, greatly appreciate it. Some more questions in chat here. We have one here from Patrick. Do you know how Starship will produce energy while in deep space? Solar panels, fuel cells, maybe an RTG, and how will they radiate the heat gained from the sun? So last we heard, Starship will have solar panels for its main source of electricity. Going out to Mars is still close enough to the sun that solar power is pretty feasible. In theory, if you were going to go beyond that, they might have some trouble with that, because I mean, down the road they'd have mentioned like the moons of Jupiter and Saturn as potential Starship destinations. I would guess that as long as the solar panels are big enough and things like that, Starship could still rely on solar power, as long as it's not going like outer solar system. But it's possible for those missions they might have to come up with another solution. Fuel cells would probably be the more feasible one. You don't really want an RTG on a crewed spacecraft if you can avoid it. But for the near term, at least, solar panels is how Starship will be powered. Question here, what is the new mast to the left of Starship? Never noticed it before, part of fuel production or lighter camera equipment. I believe it is actually a wind measuring device. Jack, on your view, it's the one directly to the left of Starship. I believe on top of there are some wind speed measurement devices, right?
Yeah, it's like 3 anemometers offset from each other on top of a large pole. A lot of times on our streams, people will be like, "Is that the drone?" And it's like, no, it's just a weather station they put up. They have a couple of them around here, but yeah, I would like to pick somebody's brain. You know, maybe. Oh, darn it! We just had Eric Berger on NASASpaceflight Live. I should have put a question in, like, why do they have 3 anemometers in a
Oh yeah,
triangular
because
fashion?
he's a weather guy. He would know.
Is it like a comparison thing? Like we get an average from all 3? Like I'm curious as to the usefulness of that, because the actual mount they're on, the little triangle mount they're on, doesn't pivot, but the individual anemometers do. So I imagine at least part of the time, one of them is getting bad air from another. The things you think about when you're sitting out here waiting for a Raptor to arrive. Yes, it is a wind measurement thing. That is my short answer.
There you go.
Yeah, we'll have to get Eric. We'll have to reach out to Berger on Twitter and see if we can get some more weather knowledge on that. But yeah, it's a weather station to help them monitor conditions at the pad. Let's see here. Will the Super Heavy booster be more successful at landing since they can already land Falcon 9 boosters? Have to be careful because I don't want to like jinx anything or claim anything. But in theory, some people have said that we expect Super Heavy to at least experience success quicker than Falcon 9 did, just because all of their experience with Falcon 9 should be pretty directly applicable to landing a Super Heavy booster. It's not doing some sort of weird belly flop maneuver. The only differences are Raptor engines instead of Merlins, and of course it's all scaled up tremendously. But the overall landing profile should be pretty similar. So hopefully that means that Super Heavy will have a fair chance at landing pretty early on, based on all of their experience landing Falcon 9s. And of course that's also helping them with Starship, especially for that final portion of the landing maneuver. It's just that belly flop, which adds a little bit of aerodynamics that they don't really do with Falcon 9 landings.
The main risk with Super Heavy is probably the Raptor and the amount of Raptors that will be on it.
Yeah. Super chat question here asking, knowing that Mars has a thin atmosphere, how are they planning to test the belly flop with similar conditions? Well, if they do fly up to higher parts of the atmosphere, they could start testing some of Starship's aerodynamics in an atmospheric pressure similar to that on Mars. Maybe that's something they do. I know they did that with the parachutes for Perseverance. They launched a sounding rocket to the altitude at which the air pressure is similar to that it would experience on Mars. They can kind of do similar testing to that with Starship, maybe. Don't know if they will or not. Of course, the best way to test it is simply to attempt a Mars landing, which they'll do at some point. So I don't know if they'll test that atmosphere difference here on Earth in any way. They can get a lot of data from their Earth test in this atmospheric pressure and use calculations and computer simulations to kind of get bridge the gap between Earth atmosphere and Mars atmosphere. So not necessarily that they'll need to test that here on Earth, but they could. The best test, of course, will just be that first Mars landing attempt, though, so we'll wait and see.
You know, what does DOS always say? Ground truth, ground truth. You can
Yes.
you can simulate it in a low pressure wind tunnel. You can fly it in the high altitude of the Earth and get the thinner atmosphere, like you're saying. But gotta get that ground. What is it? Is it still ground truth on Mars? Is there like space truth? Yeah, I don't know. Air truth.
I just say
Atmosphere truth.
I'd say ground truth still. The problem with Starship is that when it doesn't land, it really gets ground truth.
This is true.
I was muted because a car was going by, but that was awesome.
We're still getting lots of questions about if they installed the FTS or the flight termination system. The answer is yes. You can see it on Jack's camera right now. That is those 2 white boxes about halfway up Starship SN10.
Yeah, Jack, could you zoom in on those again?
I can zoom in on him again. If you have anything to cut away to, I can
Here you
throw
go.
a better lens
Fine.
on. And
There you go.
yeah,
we cut
just
away.
give me like 5 seconds. Okay, cool. I'll be right back.
So again, just looking back at the production site really quickly here, you can see the next Starship in the line back there in the high bay, and then part of the booster, the shiny part on the left-hand side of the inside of the high bay there is actually the booster that they've been stacking. They've had cranes in and out of the high bay the last couple of days here working on all that stuff. And then the new thing, if you haven't seen this yet on the high bay, there's an elevator, like a construction elevator going up the right-hand side. A little tough with the tree sort of blowing there on the side, because it is super windy out there. But you see that it's sort of a tower going up the side, like separate from the high bay off to one side. That's actually the rail for a construction elevator that goes all the way up to the top. And they have been working on that. We've seen that construction elevator going up and down the last couple days. So they continue to work on all sorts of stuff back towards the production site. And if we switch back out, let's see here. And look at this. So this is from about 1.6 miles away. While Jack is working on his camera, this camera view, you can sort of see that low-hanging clouds, haze, like you get sort of half a Starship from this. This is 1.6 miles, 2 kilometers, something. And it's nice when we have a camera like Jack or Mary right up next to Starship, because then we get those super clear views. But Jack, just let me know when you're ready to start sending me a feed again. Let me know, okay? He's muted. Oh, but okay. Well, hey, y'all wanted to see the flight, the FTS? Stand by.
Is this going to be like way zoomed in? There you go.
So those white boxes there, and he's still doing final adjustments, but I was eager. Those white boxes are actually the flight termination system, Thomas, literally explosive strapped to the side of Starship to blow it in half if they lose control of it, or it loses control of itself.
Right, so if Starship has some sort of problem during flight that could pose a danger to the surrounding area, the safest thing to do is just to, destroy the vehicle and let the debris kind of fall down within the area that they've closed off for the flight, so to protect everyone around. So, yep, all modern space vehicles have some sort of flight termination system. This goes for Falcon 9 vehicles and other rockets from other companies, Atlas 5s, Delta 4s, they've all got them. And Starship has got its installed ahead of its flight, hopefully this week, and you can see them there.
Yeah, you can
and look at that
vent area too, just above. I believe that's what that is, above the right FTS charge.
What is that? The methane vent?
Yes, Jack. If you want to pan down a tad, I think you can see the liquid oxygen vent below that.
Let's see here. So we're talking about it almost looks like a little jet engine strapped to the side, like a hole with a dot in the middle of it. And then panning down the vent. Yeah. So up close and personal with some of the vents we see while we're going through countdowns, and we're like, oh, look, the LOX vent started, or the methane vent started, or, we're purging, or whatever. That's what we're looking at there. And it's the circular thing to the right of the, I'm going to call it a raceway. It's not a covered raceway. It's just got cables going up the side of the Starship. But when we see the venting occur, that's what it's coming from, right? Can y'all imagine this camera view when it was actually venting? Jeez. So that's really cool. Hey, Jack, while you got the super zoomed in view, go all the way down to the fins, and let's see in the wind right now. We saw that wind blowing against those trees. Are the fins actually secured with the straps, struts, whatever we want to call it? Let's go down and get some detail. Look at that. Yeah, okay. Jack, thanks for switching lenses. There you go. So you can see there the red straps left and right with those tie-down points that have actually sort of secured the flaps so that they don't, I guess, take damage in the wind. Oh, wow, there's people working on it.
Humans for scale.
Jeez. So it's interesting, Thomas. The flaps don't seem to be completely retracted. Do we think those are rigid struts? Like, what good would a
They
would
don't
a chain?
look like them.
I know. I don't understand what good a chain would do if the flaps weren't in the fully retracted position. You know what I mean?
They
Unless
Yeah.
it was
might
the
be
same on the other
chained
side.
on the other side too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it could be
that's
chained on
true.
the other side. Huh.
That is
Well,
interesting.
another.
I mean, I still don't fully understand why they're even secured in the first place. I would think that they're stable enough on their, like, it would be surprising if they can just kind of swing around. If they're not secured, can they literally just swing around in the wind? I feel like that would surprise me, but maybe, I don't know.
So, all right, somebody's going to need to correct me on this, but at some point during the shuttle's flight, wouldn't they put the flaps in sort of a hydraulic power down mode? I don't know the right way to say it, but where they had a little bit of free range of motion. I wonder if Starship has the same sort of thing, or I wonder if what I'm remembering is completely wrong. I asked an astronaut once, but he didn't build the space shuttle. He might have been wrong. Like the
If
question
only we
was,
had some shuttle experts on our team that might know some more about this.
somebody should jump into the back channel and say, I wonder if it has something to do with when the hydraulics are offline, or they're not even hydraulics. They're electric, aren't
No.
they?
Electric motors.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So it's not
So
like
it
you-
would surprise me then if they could
Yeah.
move freely if they weren't secured, which of course we are not answering the question at all because I have no idea. So
Well, I'll tell you some of the there's multiple types of servos, right? And these aren't
Yeah.
big electric motors, but some of the robots that we have deployed, when they're powered down, they will just free spin. Like the electric motor doesn't do anything to hold it steady whenever there's no power to the robot. And there are
Right.
other ones that sort of lock into position when they're powered down, like they're harder to move. So it's probably just depending on, I think normal for electric motor, depending on the gearing and stuff like that, past the electric motor output shaft, it's not impossible to free spin a motor unless there's some sort of rigid system that locks it into place, like intentionally locks it into place.
we've got a bit of info from our resident shuttle expert. Chris B says they were hydraulic and the body flap and wing flaps could not move freely.
Could not move freely. So they never entered like a hydraulic power down state while they were on orbit. Where they would just like flap around, I guess is the right way to say it. Yeah.
But these are electric motors, so there could be some differences there.
Yeah, it could
Don't
be
know. I mean, evidently they're needed because otherwise they wouldn't be sort of attaching them like that. But yeah, I'm not sure I really have a good answer for that. That would be a good question to look into.
Yeah. So
Let me.
again,
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, if you're just joining us, we are hanging out with some various live views of Starship. Jack Beyer is actually out there at Boca Chica. He is operating this camera. Oh, look, we can see that anemometer really nice, too, when he's done with this sweet tilt here. So Jack is out there operating this roadside camera. We got some robots online as well. Mary is also out there in Boca Chica, and she is getting other video for the daily video that we're going to do. So instead of rolling everybody out to do the live stream, Mary's capturing some recorded video that we'll be editing and putting out later. And then Jack is here operating this camera for the Good Night Irene. How much does that thing zoom in? You can see the clouds going past it. That's a little insane, honestly.
You can see those forward flaps also secured to the body of the vehicle.
Yeah. And
All right,
those
get
are
some.
in
Oh, go ahead.
Position. I was just saying they're sort of like folded down.
Yeah.
In the stowed position. So, Anyways, Thomas, go ahead. We're getting behind the super chat queue. It looks like.
Yeah, I just want to get to some more questions and some super chats. Question here: how will they get BN1 to the launch stand if it's so tall? Would it have to go in two pieces? I guess in theory it might. They're still working on stacking it, so they haven't done like a complete stack. So it's possible they roll them out and stack them both on the launch site or something. However, it's also possible that they could. Well, actually, no, that wouldn't make a lot of sense because the high bay is tall enough for a full super heavy booster. So clearly they plan on doing full stacks for super heavies in the high bay, which means they will probably have some way to roll it out at full height to the launch site. So I take that back. They will probably be able to roll it out in one piece. Let's see. Got some super chat questions here. Is the number of Raptor swaps concerning, considering they are built to be rapidly reusable? Keep up the good work. George, thanks for the super chat. I wouldn't say concerning just yet. This is still a very much a development program, and these are still development Raptor engines. So the fact that they're still finding issues with the engines and swapping them out between tests is to be expected. The only time of these sort of engine swaps would be concerning is if we move into operational flights and then they are having issues with engines and things like that. Right now, since this is a test program, you're going to expect to find things that are broken and things that need to be tweaked, and that they'll swap out those engines accordingly. So nothing to be concerned about. This is just how a test and development program goes. Adam says, when we were zoomed in on the bottom fins earlier, did I see the retraction and extension actuators? So yeah, you can see them in this view, especially on the left fin. You can see, well, there's kind of one in the middle of the fin above the heat shield tiles, and there's another one just to the right of the heat shield tiles near the bottom, and one near the top. I don't know if those are all actuators or if only that middle one actually has the motor on it. It's possible that only one is motorized and the other two are just kind of free swinging hinges, but those are where the fins are actuated. And Chris with a super chat, has anyone posted a ground track of the SN or the 10 and 15 kilometer hops? Seems like they go inland versus out over the Gulf, which seems counterintuitive for safety. I believe those flights have all moved out towards the Gulf and then come back, correct?
That's a good question.
Michael, do you know for sure? I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what we were expecting, of slide out over to the Gulf and then belly flop on the way kind of back towards the landing site.
So if you look at some of the like the shots that the photographers have taken, where it's like shot, and like Trevor has one and John has one, and a couple of people, I think, I don't know if Jack made one like this. He could chime in.
I have the imagery for it. I just have not gotten around to
put one together?
doing the stack because it's not, exactly perfect, and I wasn't happy with how it turned out, and I was like, I'll do this later, and then I just haven't.
Yeah. So we've seen from that it is definitely motion sort of out towards the Gulf. We haven't seen any motion come back towards the land at all from those sort of stacked photos. It sort of goes up and then you reach that and it comes back down again. So I haven't seen anything that would indicate it was moving towards the land, or it has ever actually flown more inland as opposed to out towards the Gulf or the beach.
I feel like 9 kind of did. In one of those photos, you can kind of see it. It almost looks like, from the perspective of South Padre Island, it's going towards the build site just slightly, rather than 8, which kind of just looked like it went straight up. But I don't know, maybe that's like an artifact of the lens or what. I'm not quite sure what the answer is there.
I'm gonna pull it up. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I thought it goes pretty much directly straight up, and then as it reaches apogee, it moves sort of towards the tank farm almost, and then it belly flops in from that angle. And then it ignites engines facing the tank farm, and then the thrust after the belly flop maneuver starts, or the flip from the belly flop maneuver to vertical, the flip and burn as Chris G calls it, that takes it away from the tank farm and towards the landing site. That way, if the burn overperforms or overcorrects or something, Starship does not go crashing into the tank farm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I did find a photo from Trevor where it does look like it sort of goes inland a little bit and then does the flip and then comes back down again. If this is the photo you're talking about, I sort of see what you're saying, but I'm trying to find multiple photos and multiple angles and see if that's just like a way that it looks or what actually happened.
I'm looking at John's SN10, and it also looks like if anything, it leans slightly towards the production site. It is very much straight up, though. We're talking a very minor horizontal motion. It's very much a straight up test, and then there's a bit more translation as it's belly flopping, but it's pretty much straight up, straight down.
Yeah. All right.
As they go higher, though, I think we'll definitely see them add more horizontal movement.
Sure. Question here from Floodgates saying, would it matter if SN10, S11, and SN15 all failed the landing? So that would certainly be disappointing, I guess is the word. However, again, this is a test program, so who knows what kind of issues they're going to discover on the upcoming flights. Every time they do a flight, they will learn from it, and that will still be progress, even if they are not reaching further milestones in the flight. As long as they're discovering issues and fixing them, that's still progress. I think most people are hopeful that they land before SN15, or at least with SN15. But we don't know. As long as they're making progress, that's okay. This is still a test program, so I don't want to set expectations too high for such an early vehicle. I got a question here from Bob and Michelle Murray saying, can we look at the vents at the nose cone flaps? Jack, could we maybe get the camera up near the top and take a look at those? Because we were looking at the other vents earlier.
Yeah, sure thing.
I know that's something that we noticed for the first time with SN8. There are some vents near the top of the vehicle, near the nose cone flaps.
It's gonna shake a little bit. Just bear with me.
Okay. In the meantime, we got a couple questions here, or a little comment saying last time we saw someone push a flap open with their feet, so it's definitely not locked when unpowered. Thank you, Raven. And then also a super chat from Chris that says the securing straps stop them from straining the hinges. They're not meant to go back beyond 180 degrees. So I suppose because the flaps can free move when they are not powered, they need those straps to just keep those in place. So that makes sense to me. Thank you. Alright, so there's the nose cone section with the flaps, and now I'm looking to see if I can spot where those actual vents are that we see. And it's a little hazy.
Do you want like max zoom?
Yeah, I think so. If we can get max zoom near
What a
one of the
question is that?
Yeah, but yeah, do you guys see where those vents might be popping out? I'm looking, I don't see anything that looks too much like a vent, but it also might be like covered up by the flap a little bit, like it's hard to tell.
I'm not sure, but it looks like there's those little dark parts where the actuators are. I think it's in that
Yeah.
same area.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't actually see the vents from here. It might be kind of covered up near where those... You can see the dark parts sort of towards the middle of each flap. That is where the motor, the actuation motor is. Jack's saying that the vents might be in that area. But it's not as clear a view as the vents lower on the vehicle, which are just on the side of the vehicle, not surrounded by anything else.
Yeah, hang on. Let me see if I can show you something really quick. Bear with me.
Okay. Also got a $20 super chat from Brian. Thank you so much for your support. We really do appreciate it. And then Tech Marine says, hey guys, do you know if SpaceX has reinforced the road between the build and the test site for larger vehicles? I don't believe we've seen them do any big work on the on that road.
They actually are. They're doing like non-stop
Are
work
they?
on it lately. I don't know if I would call it big work, or I don't know what your definition of big work is, but they're definitely repairing potholes and chunks taken out of the road by all the traffic constantly. And right now, in particular, there's multiple zones during the week on the road where they cone it off and they make it one lane only, and they tear up all the concrete on one side and then relay asphalt. That's been ongoing lately. So I don't know if that's just standard. Sorry for the cars. I don't know if that's just standard, maintenance and repair, or if that's an upgrade or what. But what I wanted to show you is, I'm not sure. It's gonna be kind of hard to see if I can find them, but there's two little circular holes. In fact, I think you can see one on the left side there near the tiles.
Where?
I gotta tilt down more. Hang on.
Okay.
Alright, so see that hole right there that's kind of almost obscured by the white tank?
Yeah, very bottom right. I see it.
I'm pretty sure that's an RCS port. So,
Okay.
yeah, so that's the thing. I don't know. I just wanted to point that out since we were looking for vents in the vicinity of flaps. There should be one on the right side too, but I think it might be obscured by the railing. So there's that. But yeah, if you have anything else you want me to point at, say the word.
Point at everything, Jack. I mean, You know what sort of stream this is. Just point at everything.
Let's see what Hopper's up to, I guess.
Again, y'all,
Sure.
we are just live out here at Boca Chica. Jack Byer is out there operating this camera. We've got robotic camera views while he moves that one around. So we are doing some testing for our robots. This is one that's stationed back there at the village. And from the beach today, it's actually pretty hazy over at the beach. It's crazy how just the different angles have such different amounts of fog or whatever between the camera and the objective. This one's a little bit less. It's a little bit closer. It's a little bit less further away, I guess, than the one on the beach. But from this angle, it is almost completely invisible. You just barely see the ground there, the tank farm and the base of Starship on the left-hand side. And then you look at it from this angle, this camera is actually further away, but there's just not as much mist, haze, fog, whatever you want to call it in this direction. Low-hanging clouds, whatever they are. And then you get up to Jack's camera, and Jack is, super close. So not a lot of atmosphere, not a lot of stuff in the air between Jack. Oh, are those the... Those are the spotlights, aren't they?
Yeah, sure enough.
Yeah.
It looks like Hopper has a mustache. It's like 2 eyes and then a mustache. I have never looked at that close up before.
Starhopper looks like it's seen some stuff.
Those they straight up look like Kerbal lights, like those 3 lights.
Yeah,
that are
they
pointing
do.
Down. Those look like the square lights you can use in Kerbal, and they're just angled down like you had just put them right on the side of a Kerbal rocket. That's a little crazy.
It looks like a wide-eyed bulldog with an underbite.
And again, y'all, Starhopper now this is the first one that hopped and lived. This is now used as a water tank. Looking at some of the pumps and piping down at the bottom of it, we think that there is water in it. And they also have all sorts of communication. That's maritime sort of radar there on top. You can see there's a camera array with a bunch of different cameras on board, some spotlights that they use, and then some communication dishes. So there's actually a couple of short-range fixed wireless links that they use to move data around Boca Chica out there on the top of Starhopper. So that's cool.
That is really cool.
We need to get our own Starhopper and land it somewhere so we can mount a bunch of stuff to our own Starhopper.
Yes!
You call it Wenhopper?
Windhopper, nice.
Cut some more super chats here. What are those big circles on the top half and bottom half of Starship, one slightly left to the FTS? Well, as Jack pans back over to the Starship SN10, maybe we'll get a view of that.
Yeah.
Big circles, top half and bottom half, one slightly left of the FTS.
Probably the access hatches that are bolted down with
Oh,
lines right
maybe.
now. Yeah.
There are some hatches on the side of the vehicle so workers can get in and access different systems and things like that. Yeah, that looks
all
like
the
an
bolts
access
right
hatch.
there. Yep, there you go.
Yep, so that's just so teams could get in there and access valves and plumbing systems and those kind of things. That's very common for all rockets to have ways for engineers to get in there and adjust things if they need to.
Yep.
And Tony asking why the tiles are on the leeward side of the fin. We don't really know for sure. We think they're just testing their way of attaching the tiles to the vehicle, and thus it doesn't actually matter where on the vehicle they put them. It's also possible that is actually a place where they might expect some heating to get to anyway, and they could want some heat shield tiles there anyway. But they could just be testing attachment methods, especially on these early vehicles that don't actually experience reentry heating anyway. I got a super chat here from Bob and Michelle Murray. Thank you so much for your support. Appreciate it. And then a question here from Dougal. How's the new road from the dock to Boca going, and any idea what may be going on at Roberts Road? So that's 2 different questions there. I don't know. Do we have an update on a new road between the Port of Brownsville and Boca Chica?
Yeah,
Jack?
it's the Port Connector Road. You can see it. Basically, there's a border checkpoint on your way in on Highway 4, and right after you pass the border checkpoint on the left-hand side of the road as you're headed to the beach, there is a new road. It's the Port Connector Road. I believe that's been in work for a while. I'm not quite sure how long, but it is rapidly taking shape. I mean, when I was last year for SN9, and Mary and I went up in the plane and shot some aerial photos, you can see, you know, they have already graded the whole length of it, and we're just working on getting asphalt down and doing some other work, with some pilings and what have you. But I'm not quite sure what they're doing there. But I'll have to take some photos next time I'm driving past there, and I'll post them on L2 or something, just because it's fascinating how quickly that's coming together. I mean, I know, like, I'm sure everyone feels the same way. When there's construction going on in your hometown or, you know, on a piece of road you use often, you're like, geez, is this construction ever going to end? It's going to take years. And then I don't think this port connector road's going to take very long. It's coming together real fast.
Gotcha. And then the question about Roberts Road, that's a facility over in Florida, near the Kennedy Space Center that we know SpaceX has and started building up some stuff. We don't know exactly what that's for. It could be in support of future Starship operations, or it could be part of their normal Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy ops over near Cape Canaveral, but no sort of real knowledge out there as to what exactly they're doing. But SpaceX does have that facility out there that they could use to support a variety of different things. And of course, as we learn more, we'll happily share that. A couple more super chats here. Kazmaster is saying using 2 of the transporters connected in a wider stance could spread the concentration of the weight. Could be in preparation for Super Heavy. That would make sense. We know they are going to have to transport that to the launch site somehow, so that would make sense. Thank you for your super chat. And then also a $5 from Bill Sparks, who says, when Hopper needs to happen. I agree. Appreciate everyone's support there. I know we said we were going to do this for about an hour, and it has been a little bit over an hour. To kind of wrap up, we are still expecting Starship SN10 to make a flight attempt as early as tomorrow, pending a couple last pre-flight preparations and things like that. We don't have any firm updates, further updates to give, so I think you should follow NASASpaceflight at NASASpaceflight on Twitter. You can also follow us on our various social media accounts, but we'll be sharing the latest in Starship updates. Is that methane arriving at the launch site there, Jack?
The sign is red, so it's going to be a flammable.
Yep, looks like
Yeah,
methane.
Yeah. Can you get, like, how close can you get to that sign? What does it say on it, Jack?
How close can I get to that?
I dare
methane,
you.
refrigerated liquid,
Yeah.
1972.
1972. Turns
So
out
there you
that's why they're that way. You got the red sign. I could see that it was a red sign, even though I couldn't read what it said. And knowing that it's a flammable liquid or gas there, then you zoom in on it, and there you go. If it had been nitrogen or oxygen, I would have expected it to be green. Or nitrogen,
Right.
I would expect to be green. Oxygen might have been white, I think.
I think yellow.
Yellow?
I'm not positive, but I think yellow.
Yeah. There's a tank with a green sign on it. You're just about to pan off the left. We'll go back to that in a second, maybe.
Okay, yeah.
Jack, this might be a good opportunity to get, like, when we're done here, to get pictures of what each tank is, because you've got a great shot of the placards there on some of the tanks, it looks like.
Oh yeah, good call. I would really love one of the aerial photos that Mary or I got to have, like, you know, an annotated thing of, like, here's everything on the tank farm.
Yeah, then we could put that aside and we could bring it up on the stream for live screens, but it's like, here's an aerial view of the tank farm and what everything is. Like, we've been meaning to do that for a while.
Yeah, good call.
Excellent. Oh, back it up again.
This is me when I parallel park. I'm like, okay, I get out, I look, I move an inch, I get out, I look, move an inch. I swear I'm good at doing it, I'm just nervous.
Back
All
it up.
right.
We were
Well,
stopping it, weren't we? But I want to watch the methane truck, Thomas.
Yeah, I know, but
Fine, disconnect. I want to watch the methane
some
truck.
of us have to start getting ready for a Starlink launch tonight, Das.
Oh, gosh. Go get in the car and leave. We'll just hang out here. No, but for real. We are doing...
It's like mom and dad being like, go to bed! You're like, I am, and you're staying up in your room watching TV till 2 a.m. Are you asleep? Yes! Come on, just 5 more minutes! Just 5 more minutes!
Just 5 more minutes. Nice. Of watching live views from Boca Chica. Thomas, you do have to get in the car and drive down for Starlink, don't you? You're headed down there.
Yeah, pretty soon. So tonight, myself and Chris Gibhart will be down. And Stephen Marr, I believe. We'll all be down at the press site at Kennedy Space Center for a launch of a Falcon 9 on another Starlink mission. Tonight's launch is at 8:37 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll probably be live around 7:30, 7:40 tonight. So stay tuned for our live broadcast of tonight's launch. Should be fun.
Good deal. All right. Hey, Trevor. Trevor says Thomas Sand Club. What's up, Trevor? Thank you for the $2 there. We appreciate the support. Let's see here.
And we don't appreciate the sand.
Jeez. So Thomas, how much of the outro had we done there? I was working on a technical thing, and then I opened my big mouth.
Yeah, so I'll also wrap up and say Starship SN10 no earlier than Monday. Stay tuned for further updates. Of course, we will be live for that launch attempt via Mary and Jack and the rest of the team. So stay tuned. But as of right now, flight hopefully on track for an attempt tomorrow. So stay tuned.
All right, and look, gosh, that haze just keeps rolling in. But folks, like we said, we just want to do a brief update today, doing some answers, Q&A, and stuff like that. We will be back here on the same channel later this evening for Starlink, like Thomas was saying. Join us a little bit after 7:30 Eastern Time. That's going to be in about 4.5 hours from now. So whatever your time zone is, about 4.5 hours. But for now, I think we will go ahead and sign off from this live Q&A update from Boca Chica with the NASA Spaceflight team. Real quick, we'll just go around the horn here. You just heard the voice of Thomas Burkhart, who needs to get going so that he can make Starlink. Thomas, thanks for hanging out with us today.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, guys.
All right. You follow Thomas on Twitter at TGMetsFan98 is his Twitter. And then out in the field, we had Jack Byer. Jack is down there in Boca Chica, South Padre Island, Port Isabel, whatever you want to call it, doing a bunch of stuff to cover SN10. He's at the Jack Byer on Twitter. Jack, thank you so much for rolling out and bringing us these fantastically zoomed-in views of SN10 here.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for the support. Yeah, follow me on Twitter, the Jack Byer. Got a Patreon, YouTube channel, Instagram, all the things. You know, whatever.
All the things.
Can't wait for SN10. Please fly. Please fly good. Please land.
All right, so y'all, Jack is out there, and he will be operating a camera. He was operating this live stream camera this evening because Mary was actually over filming some other things at other parts of Boca Chica, gathering up videos and uploading videos for that daily update that will come here on the channel later. You know, every day we do sort of a little update video, what happened at Boca Chica today, and that's just like a short 8, 10, 12-minute video that just shows some time lapses of things being picked up with cranes and concrete being smooth and that sort of stuff. But Mary is out there, and she was free today to continue working on that daily video footage while Jack brought us the live view. So hashtag NASA Spaceflight teamwork there. Also back in the studio, we had Michael Baylor, Michael, etc., etc.
How's it going? And hopefully, fingers crossed, we will see a test flight tomorrow, if not sometime soon.
You bet, concur, etc. Y'all, Michael is Next Spaceflight on Twitter. And then lastly here, I am John Galloway with NASA Spaceflight signing off here today. We will be back later for Starlink. We will have the daily video that happens. And if the village gets evacuated, you can guarantee we will be live tomorrow for a potential flight of SN10. No guarantees on a flight tomorrow, but we will continue to watch all the things that we can watch. And if something's going to happen, you can bet that we will be here live on the channel. As always, thanks for all the support that allows us to continue on this coverage. And for now, we will say later, nerds. See you next time.
Pressure looks good. Following up. Roger, roll with Atlantic. Flight outside speed off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.